Hey yogis, welcome to Limitless Yoga Studio Online. My name is Kelsey. This is Watson, and today's focus is going to be on opening up the chest area, working on those tight pec muscles. We're going to throw in some hamstrings, and then towards the end of class, you'll have an option of taking yourself to the wall and maybe trying Pincha Myurasana. So to get started, we're going to make sure that we have our 2 blocks and then 1 myofascial release ball or a tennis ball. And then we're going to start in a crocodile pose. So you're going to be laying down on the belly, and you'll be taking your forearms into a stack to make a pillow. Hi, buddy. Maybe. Come here, over here. This is Watson's favorite pose. All right, so once you have your forehead resting on your forearms, go ahead and close down the eyes and take a couple deep cycles of breath. See if you can breathe 360 degrees around the waistline. This does include the belly, the ribs, and the chest. And then on every exhale, imagine sinking the space between your shoulder blades a little bit closer to the floor. So you're going to gently start to feel out those pec muscles. Those muscles run from your breastbone out toward your bicep. They kind of sweep across the front of the shoulder head. So you might be feeling a little bit of a stretch right now. See if you can breathe into that stretch, allowing the heart space to sink. And we'll be here for just a few more cycles of breath. Making sure that those inhales are to your max capacity. And those exhales are squeezing out all the old air. Last 3 big cycles of breath here. Maybe counting how long it takes you to inhale and comparing that with your exhale. Maybe choosing to use these last cycles of breath to inhale a little energy for class if you need it. And to exhale any distractions. Just let's set them aside for a little bit so we can get what we need. All right, go ahead and flutter open the eyes. Reach the hands up overhead. Take a stretch through the fingers, through the toes. And then sweep the hands back behind you. From here, let's see if you can scoop the belly up off the mat. It's going to feel like your hip points are coming into your ribs. It'll feel like your tailbone is lengthening. We want that really firm core. Once you have it, roll the shoulder heads up off the mat, lengthening through the back of the neck, and then relax it back down. So a few of these cobra moves. Firm up the belly first to protect the low back, and then roll yourself up, broadening across the chest. I just want you to get a feel for what the chest muscles feel like today, maybe this morning or this afternoon, whenever you're taking this class. Last one, roll up, rise up, and then slowly release yourself back down. All right, bring your hands back up overhead. You're going to need that block, and you're going to need that ball. All right, we're going to do a little pec release. So you're going to take the block, place it right up underneath the pec, so right where the shoulder head comes into the body. You've got that little corner. We're going to place the ball right there on top of the block, and then I've got that 90-degree kind of cactus arm, using my opposite arm as a pillow. All right, so take a moment here, soften into that pressure. We're looking for kind of a deep tissue massage-like quality. So I'm going to move around, kind of shimmying my shoulder or shrugging it, maybe even physically moving the ball around until I find a good spot. And then once I have a pretty good sensation, I'm going to pause, breathe, relax, and try to melt into it. Once that sensation fades or almost goes away, then I know I'm ready to source out my next spot of tension. So you've got a pretty good area to work there, right where the shoulder head connects into the body. You almost might want to think about where, if you're wearing a tank top, kind of that tank top line from the shoulder, kind of sweeping down around the armpit. Find what works for you. We're going to be here for 1 more minute before we switch sides. And then we're just going to see how this release makes a pretty big difference to the broadening of the chest and how it feels to roll those shoulder heads back. Okay, feel free to move around if needed. Finding those good spots to hang on to. And we're here for just a few more seconds. All right. I'm going to go ahead and release the block and the ball. Set them aside just for a second. Go ahead and come back into that position with the hands down by the sides, scooping the belly up off the mat to firm up the core, and then roll the shoulder heads back, noticing the difference between the left and the right. For me, my left feels way more free in that range of motion. It even feels like it's pulling further back in space. One more lift and lower. All right, let's even out the sides. Go ahead and drag that block in, set the ball on the corner of the block so that you can then place it on the corner of that armpit area. Now this side's going to be completely different, so make sure that you move around, kind of explore, figure out what areas need that attention, and then once you find it, pause, relax, breathe into the space, soften into the space, and then it might take one cycle of breath to soften that area and release the sensation, or it might take quite a bit depending on the severity of like that spot right there of the sensation and what you're finding. These pec muscles tend to get quite tight when we sit hunched over our technology. Basically, when we round the back, kind of in that poor posture, these muscles get a little bit tighter. So it's pretty common for us to have tight muscles in the front of the body because of what most of us do all day, whether we're standing poorly or sitting poorly for our jobs. We're here for about another minute. You might want to take a second to notice which side is a little bit more intense. I think this right side for me has a few more spots, a little bit more intensity than my left does. I'm going to take just a few more cycles of breath here, and then we'll come right back to that cobra pose to feel out the differences now that we have both sides released. We'll here for just 3 more cycles of breath. And then when you've finished up, we'll go ahead and release the ball, release the block. All right. Go and take the hands down by the sides one more time. Firm up the belly to protect the low back. So we shouldn't feel anything in the low back as we lift. And then just kind of compare the sides. Hopefully they're feeling way more symmetrical, way more open, maybe bigger range of motion. Last one is here. And then finished. Hand to the rib cage. Go ahead and press up hands and knees. Drop the sitting bones towards the heels, lengthening out the back, kind of tractioning out the spine. Big breath as you relax the forehead to the mat. All right, go ahead and roll on up to hands and knees. We're going to stack it up, shoulders on top of wrists, hips on top of knees. We got some cat-cows. Inhale, gently drop the ribs. Exhale, push into the palms, arch, and scoop the tailbone towards the nose. Take a few of these, and then while it's pretty easy to get it wrapped up in the amount of space that we can create up and down, we also want to be creating space from nose to tailbone. So lengthen the spine. Keep that in mind as you take one more round up and down. And then we'll meet in a nice neutral spine, so halfway between cat and cow. Taking the right foot back, press to the heel. Find that stretch along the back line of the leg. If you'd like to take the left foot up on top, you're welcome to do so. Let's just be careful that that heel doesn't spin in towards the midline. I'm going to relax the chin towards the chest and take one more big breath through the back line of that leg. And then with that left knee back down on the floor, inhale, right hand comes up. We're going to take this hand to the small of the back. Use that to help open up the chest. So roll that right shoulder head back. Feel that right pec stretch. Big inhale here. We're going to keep that bind. Take the left hand all the way to the back of the room. Breathe into the left side ribs as you stretch out the side body. Okay, bring it all the way down. This time the right hand comes forward. Kind of find this rainbow shape from fingers to toes. And then one more time, take the hand to the small of the back. Open up that right pec. And then bring it into that half-bound gate pose. Maybe wrapping the fingers around the side of the ribs. This time as you come down and reach for the front of your mat, pause, choose to stay here or really hug that left shoulder head in, push until the left knee lightens or even lifts for 3, 2, and 1. Bring that knee back down. I'll meet you on hands and knees. Take a few sasas of the hips right and left, playing with the angles. This is for those outer hip areas, kind of that top of the IT band area. Again, playing with the angles is going to be important because your sides are different. Everybody's different in where they hold their tension. I'm going to take one more right, one more left. And then second side, left foot steps back, press to the heel. Go ahead and make sure that alignment of sitting bone to heel is correct. And then choose to stay here. Or maybe you want to take the right foot up on top. So you're actively pushing that heel closer into the earth as you feel that big stretch on the back line of the right leg from the calf and the hamstring. Take a big breath. And then make sure that right knee is back down on the floor. Inhale, left hand comes up. We're going to tuck this hand to the small of the back, kind of reaching those fingers energetically towards the mat, rolling that left shoulder head back, possibly gazing up towards the ceiling. Big inhale. Exhale, gate pose. Keep that half bind as you reach the fingers all the way towards the back of the room, maybe even wrapping the fingers around the ribs. As I come back down, that left hand's going to go towards the front of the mat. Find that rainbow shape as I arch my ribs high to get that left side body stretch. Okay, again, hand goes to the small of the back, wrapping around towards the right side of the rib cage. Right hand's going to go towards the back of the mat, breathing into the right side bodies. This time as you come down and create that rainbow shape, you can choose to stay or hug that right shoulder head in, press to feel a little lightness in the right knee or even a lift for 3, 2, and 1. Bring it all the way back down to hands and knees. All right. So from here, we're going to lower down to the belly again. We're going to take that right arm forward like a karate chop, shoulder blade down the back. Remember to scoop the belly so it's going to feel like hips to ribs, long tailbone. That's that engagement of that low core. Keep that engaged as you lift the right arm and the left leg. Keep that engaged so that as you lift and lower, you can continue to feel support in that low back area and we're not pinching into it. We got one more here and then we'll switch sides. Left karate chop forward along with that right foot. Lift and lower. So I'm not feeling anything in the low back because of that support of that low core, that hips to ribs action, that long tailbone, kind of that scooping of the belly button up off of the floor. Hands to the rib cage, hands and knees. Curl the toes. All right, I'm going to inhale, hands up overhead, seal the palms, and press the thumbs to the back of the neck. Now my body really wants to push the belly forward, so I'm going to do that same hips to rib actions that we just practiced in Cobra, okay? So we're going to take it up, and as soon as my thumbs go towards the back of my neck, I'm going to think hips to ribs here so that I'm not flaring the belly. All right, I'm going to take 2 more. Maybe reaching the elbows even further back, kind of testing the waters of how those triceps and chest feel. Last one here. And then bring the hands all the way back down to the mat. Firming the shoulder heads in towards their sockets. Step back into plank, feet hip distance apart. Give me an inhale. Exhale, press back into down dog. Feeling how the chest opens up as you press the heart towards the thigh bones. Relax the chin of the chest. Feel free to walk out the calves. Give me a big breath here in down dog. And then we're going to look forward, step forward, find the top of your mat. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, forward fold. Now standing up, I'm going to press the palms together, thumbs to the back of the neck. Now I really have to fight that tendency to sway the hips forward now that I'm standing nice and tall. So keep that hips to ribs action, that long tailbone as you stay here for one more cycle of breath. All right, hands come back to heart center. We're going to set those blocks up, top of the mat, shoulder distance apart. We might need them here for our first little bit. We're going to get into some hamstring stretches. All right, feet hip distance apart. Here we go. Inhale, hands up overhead. Take the thumbs to the back of the neck with a firm belly. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, forward fold. Use the blocks if you'd like. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, right foot steps back. We're going to pause, drop down into that right hip flexor. You can keep it dynamic if you'd like, or you can even drop the back of the knee if needed. We're here for 3, 2, 1, drop the knee. Use the blocks if you'd like to straighten out your front leg. We've got the foot flexed towards the shin. We're actively dragging the heel towards the back of the mat as my nose gets drawn to the front of the mat. Take a big breath here, making sure not to lock out that joint. And then exhale, come forward. Get rid of any props you're using. Inhale, rise up, thumbs to the back of the neck. Beware of that belly. And then hands come down. Left hand's going to sweep up, tuck to the small of the back as you sweep that left foot back, kind of wrapping around the ribs. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, find that half bound gate pose that we found during our warm up. Exhale, cartwheel down, choose to stay here, or maybe you lift that right knee in that side plank. Bring it down, hands to the floor. Stepping back into plank, rock to the tiptoes, lower to the belly. All right, this time both hands are coming forward into karate chops. Shoulder blades down the back, nose towards the floor. Scoop the belly up using that low core, that hips to ribs. And then as I lift and lower, I'm going to try to keep the biceps in line with the ears. Lifting and lowering, utilizing that muscles, all those muscles between the shoulder blades and along that mid-back area, but nothing cranky in the low back. Hands to the rib cage. Find your plank. Find your down dog. Lengthen it all the way out. All right, I'm going to take my right foot up towards the sky, making sure the toes stay pointed downwards. Press to that left heel. Find that back line of the leg. Take a breath. And exhale, switch it out. Left heel goes up with the toes pointed downwards rather than flaring out. Take a breath. And exhale, let it go. Look forward, step forward, top of the mat. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up, get nice and tall. Take the thumbs to the back of the neck again. Beware of the belly. Take an inhale here. Exhale, interlace the hands, push up towards the ceiling. Try to keep the chin away from the chest and the fingers away from the back of the skull. One more here. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, left foot's going to step back. Pause, drop into your left hip flexor. Again, keep it dynamic or drop the knee, all up to you. We're here for 3, 2, and 1. Dropping the knee. Grab the blocks if you need them. Straightening out that front leg into that half splits. All right, we've got the toes flexed. We've relaxed the wrinkles out of the back of the neck, and you're staying buoyant in that knee. We definitely have a tendency to lock out that knee when we straighten the leg. Take a breath. On your exhale, bring it forward. Get rid of any blocks. Inhale, rise up. Thumbs to the back of the neck. Make sure you've got that belly prepared so it doesn't flare. All right, as the hands come down, right hand's going to go up and then tuck to the small of the back for that pec stretch. Right heel kicks back. Take an inhale. Exhale, keep the half bind as you find your gate pose, reaching for the back of your mat. Bring it all the way back down, choosing to stay here or plug into that right footprint. Hug the left shoulder head in and lift for side plank. Okay, bringing it down, hands land, plank distance apart. Step back into plank, rock the tiptoes, lower to the belly, elbows in. All right, I'm going to take my hands forward. I get the blocks out of the way. Now my options are to keep the hands exactly like they were in the last round or to place the palms together. This could possibly make it a little more intense. All right, prepare the belly by scooping the hips to the ribs, tailbone long, and then lift and lower. Now, if this doesn't feel good in the low back, feel free to come back to that other variation, separating the hands, or even placing the hands by the rib cage. Okay, we got one more round. Up and down, hands by the ribs. Find your plank. Find your down dog. Lengthen it out. All right, we're dropping into dolphin, one forearm at a time, making sure the elbows land shoulder distance apart, relaxing the chin to the chest. Now, if you need to micro bend the knees, that's perfectly fine because we haven't done a ton of hamstrings here, and this is a pretty intense pose. I'm a little bit more worried about the shoulder alignment here, so make sure the elbows are right underneath the shoulders or shoulder distance apart. Feel free to interlace the hands. I feel like that releases a lot of tension from the wrist area for me, so definitely take that if you'd like it. One more big breath. Let's actively push the heart towards the back of the room now, opening up that chest space. All right, and then we'll drop the knees and rise up to the palms. All right, we're back into that tabletop position. All right, I'm gonna put my blocks back, shoulder distance apart, since they got a little crazy after that last round. Okay, all right, we're moving into our sun bees now. Okay, so feel free to take a rest, hit the pause button whenever you need. If you're ready now, step back into plank, press back into down dog. Once you're in down dog, can you shrug your shoulder blades up into your ears and then pull them down your back, kind of sliding them into your back jean pockets. Press them up into your ears and then down into your pockets. Take this 2 more times, increasing your range of motion. Arms are staying straight here, but the shoulder blades are moving up and down. We will need that later. All right, looking forward, stepping forward, top of the mat. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up, get nice and tall. Exhale, hands to heart center. All right, as we start our sun bees, recognize that you are welcome to do your vinyasa. If you're not sure what that is, no worries, you're going to stick with me. I'm going to give you some options here. So at the end of the day, always do what feels good in the body. There shouldn't be anything that feels painful. I'll see you at the top of the mat, feet hip distance apart. Here we go. Inhale, hands up overhead. With a firm belly, put the thumbs to the back of the neck. Now, as you sit down into your chair, the belly's really going to want to flare, so you might not go as low. Take an inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Use the blocks if you need to. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, your vinyasa. For this first round, I'm just going to step back into down dog, and you're always welcome to step back into down dog when I say vinyasa. Inhale as the right toes go up. Make sure they're pointed downwards. Exhale, step the foot all the way through. Now you're welcome to drop the back knee, grab the blocks, and find your hamstring stretch like we did before, or maybe you're going to keep that back knee lifted, which will intensify the stretch, so up to you. You can use the blocks on either one of these. Take one more big breath, not locking out that right knee. And then everybody will come into a low lunge, getting rid of any props. Spin your back heel down, rise up, warrior 2, stacking the shoulders on top of the hips. Now make sure we've got that same support, that hips to rib actions. Take a big inhale. Exhale, settle into the pose. All right, making sure you've got 5 toes pointed forward, knee tracks to the middle of your foot. We're going to inhale, seal the palms, and then as you come back down, exhale, thumb to the back of the neck, super firm belly. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, back to warrior 2. A few more like that. Inhale, up. Exhale, find that overhead position with the elbows in line with the armpits. We're not flaring the elbows out. We're keeping the belly firm so we're not hanging out in the low back. Okay, we got one more round. Inhale up, exhale down. This time, inhale up, exhale, straight arms, straight legs, reach forward and down for triangle pose. The hand's going to slide lightly down the shin, maybe towards the ankle or the pinky toe side of the foot. Try to resist that sinking of the head down in gravity. Make sure that it's in line with the rest of your spine. We got one more big breath here. Then exhale, bend the knee, hands come down to the floor. As you walk to the middle of your mat, we're going to heels in, toes out. Inhale, rise up, straight arms, straight legs. So similar positioning of the hands, but in this goddess position, you're really going to have to work on wrapping that core in, because as we come into goddess, the belly's going to want to flare, and you're going to want to take this in the low back, which we definitely don't want to do. So really practice hips to ribs, long tailbone, one more round. Okay, inhale up, exhale, hands to the floor. Walk to the top of the mat. Option 1 is down dog, I'll see you there. Or option 2, I'm going to hug that left shoulder head in. I'm going to take the right hand to the small of the back and come into that side plank with a half bind. All right, I'll see you in down dog. Lengthen it out. Second side, inhale, left toes up, making sure those toes stay pointed down. Exhale, kick it all the way through. Your hamstring stretch, which might involve blocks or it might involve dropping the back knee. Just be aware that front knee is going to want to lock out, so try to avoid that. Relax the wrinkles out of the back of the neck. We're going to take 2 more cycles of breath here. Feeling everything from the sitting bone all the way down through the back of the knee. After this last exhale, bring yourself forward, get rid of your prop, spin the back heel down and rise up, warrior 2. Let's check that back heel is just a little bit further back from the toes, so we have that nice spin of the knee forward. We're going to inhale up and we're going to exhale down. All right, so let's make sure that our belly is firm enough that we're really wrapping that low belt of support in, thinking about that long tailbone. So each time we do this, we don't have that tendency to flare the belly forward. Okay, we got one more round here. Hey, next time you have straight arms, straight legs, reach forward and down, triangle pose. Pressure to the ball of your front foot, but feel free to have that micro bend in the knee, again, so we're not locking out. Maybe the gaze goes up, checking that those fingers are shooting straight out of the shoulder socket. Big inhale here. Exhale, bend the knee as the hands come down. Walk to the middle of your mat. Again, we're going heels in, toes out. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bring it down into goddess. So we're going to work on squeezing the shoulder blades together. Squeeze and neutral. Squeeze and neutral. So each time we fire that muscle between the shoulder blades, we're actively stretching the pecs, we're stretching the front. So getting a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of heat in that back area is going to help us open up the front area. We got 2 more here, pulses, shoulder blades down the back, and then hands to the floor. Walking to the top of the mat, down dog is a great option, or I'm going to take that half bind side plank, really pushing into the mat and arching the ribs high. From down dog, lengthen it all the way out. All right, bending the knees a little bit. We're going to again drop down into that dolphin position, so elbows shoulder distance apart, even though they really want to go wider. I like to interlace the hands. It feels better on my wrists. This time I'm pressing through my heels. I'm pressing my sitting bones into the back of the room, and I'm pressing my heart back into my thighs, relaxing the chin to the chest. Take 2 big cycles of breath here. Lots of hamstring sensation, lots through the chest. All right, and then drop the knees. So we're coming right back into that in just a second. If you remember those down dog shoulder blade push-ups we did, we're going to do them now in dolphin. It might feel a little more difficult. You might not have as big a range of motion, but that is okay. Curl the toes, lift the hips. If you need to micro bend the knees, go ahead. I'm going to push into my elbows, shrugging my shoulder blades up into my ears, and then pulling them down into my jean pockets. As you do this, you're going to notice that your head gets further up off of the floor and then gets down real close to it, okay? 2 more like this. Probably feeling a little bit of heat and fatigue around the shoulder blade area. After this last round, drop the knees. All right, bring it on up to the palm so you're back in that tabletop position. All right, from here, hug those shoulder heads in, stepping back into plank, press back into down dog, lengthen it all out. Looking forward, bend the knees, step or hop, top of the mat. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, get nice and tall. Exhale, hands to heart center. Second sun B. Inhale, fill up the lungs. Exhale, thumbs to the back of the neck. Keeping the belly firm, have a seat down in your chair, weight through the heels. Inhale to stay. Exhale to fold. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, your vinyasa. This time I'm going to modify my vinyasa by dropping the knees, broadening the chest, rolling the shoulder heads back, elbows to ribs, tap. Once I'm in down dog with everybody, right toes up in the sky again, making sure that those toes are pointed down. I'm going to begin to walk the hands back towards the foot, finding that standing splits position. Be careful because as that leg lifts higher, the toes want to spin out to the side. Try to keep those toes pointed down. It's going to be important for our peak pose at the end of class. Take 1 more big breath here. And then slowly walk your hands forward. Double check that you've got a good down dog before you kick your foot all the way through. All right, keeping your back heel lifted, rise up. And immediately secure that low belt of support, because in crescent, we really like to hang out in the low back. Okay, so once you've got that hips to ribs, long tailbone, give me an inhale. Exhale, interlace the hands, flip and push up towards the ceiling a few times. Maybe those fingers get a little bit further back behind you, and then do the same thing behind your back. Interlace, roll the shoulder heads back, open up the chest, but again, belt of support to keep it out of the low back. Looking toward your blocks, bend, push, lift, warrior three. Keep the toes pointed down rather than flaring to the side. Broaden the chest, lengthen through the crown of the head. Big inhale here. And then exhale, hands to the block, standing splits, top of the mat. So relaxing the chin to the chest. See how those toes naturally want to flare out to the side. You really got to be mindful to keep them pointed down. You can feel free to use the floor if you'd like, as long as you can keep that right leg nice and straight for the stretch. Take one more big breath here. And then toes are going to drop all the way to the back of the mat. As I walk towards the middle of the mat, I'm going to keep my hands on the floor, pretty much shoulders on top of wrists, okay? Now I want to imagine that hips to rib action, but I'm going to kind of go to the nth degree with it. So as I lean forward, waving the hands, think about that hips to ribs, which is naturally going to kind of tuck my tailbone, draw my rib cage upwards, creating that cat back. Okay, so I want to take a couple of these, focusing on rather than just arching the back, I want you to see if you can bring this from that low core. So hips to ribs, slowly, hips to ribs, hips to ribs, hips to ribs. So you're squeezing hard enough that maybe the heels even get a little lighter or lift up off the floor. Take two more, pressing into the hands, shoulder blade shrugging up into the ears, squeezing the hips to ribs, tucking the tailbone, feeling that low core really light up. Last one, weight towards the hands, shoulders towards the ears, hips towards the ribs, squeeze, and then let it go. Walk to the top of the mat. Option one is down dog. I'll see you there. Option two is going to be wild thing. I'm going to take my side plank, take my right foot, step behind me, roll my heart up towards the ceiling, keeping those shoulder blades down the back, opening up the right pec. Okay, from down dog, lengthen it out, second side. Inhale, left toes up. Let's make sure the toes stay pointed down as we walk our hands back and find standing splits. So you don't want to walk your hands so far back that you have to bend the knee a lot. That kind of takes you out of the pose. So only step back with your hands enough to intensify the hamstring stretch to what you need. Take one more big breath here. And then begin to walk your hands forward. Make sure you've got a good shoulder engagement here before you kick your left foot all the way through. Keeping your back heel lifted. Inhale, rise up, find your crescent. Again, wrapping that belt of support. Take a big inhale here. Exhale. This time, take the thumbs to the back of the neck. Double up that support so nothing goes into the low back. We're going to look forward and find a warrior three. Bend, push, lift, elbows up towards the ceiling. This is a lot here. Press to that back heel, toes pointed down. One inhale. Exhale, hands to the block, standing splits. Relaxing the chin to the chest, double checking that back foot. So we're kind of spinning that whole thigh bone towards the floor, keeping that back level. Take one more big breath here in your standing splits, pressing through that left heel to find the hamstring stretch. And then gently drop the toes to the back of the mat. Okay, down dog is a great idea. Or if you want to join me in wild thing, I'm going to slide back into side plank, take a little baby step behind me, and then roll the hips and the heart up towards the ceiling, shoulder blades down the back. Bringing it all the way back down to plank, down dog. I'm going to lengthen. All right, so dropping the knees. We're going to add a few things together, all right? So we're going to take that dolphin positioning of the arms, elbows underneath the shoulders, shoulder distance apart. Again, I like to interlace because it feels better. Okay, so we're going to take this. We're going to take that shoulder shrug that we practiced, and we're going to take our standing splits and put them all together. All right, so curl the toes, take an inhale. Exhale, press up in toward your dolphin. Okay, once you found it, can you shrug your shoulder blades into your ears? Now hold that as your right foot reaches up for standing splits, keeping the toes pointed down. As soon as you find your max, keep the shoulder blades shrugged up into the ears, drop the foot, relax the shoulders, drop the knees. Okay, second side, take a big inhale. Exhale, press back into dolphin. Shrug the shoulder blades up into the ears. Keep it that way. Left heel rises, left toes pointed down. Find that big hamstring stretch. Take one more breath. Exhale, foot comes down, shoulders relax, drop the knees. Nice. Okay. All right, all that's going to be really important here in just a second when we put it all together at the wall. Okay. So the last thing that we're going to practice is, again, that scoop, that hips to the ribs. We're going to practice it using the block at the top of the mat. Okay. So have your blocks handy, ready to go. Stepping back into our last set, plank and down dog. Inhale, looking forward. Exhale, stepping or hopping forward, top of the mat. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up, get nice and tall. Exhale, thumbs to the back of the neck. Have a seat down in your chair. Elbows shooting straight out of those armpits. One inhale to stay. One exhale to fold. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Exhale, your vinyasa, which could be down dog. It could be dropping your knees. Or I'm going to rock to my tiptoes, broaden my chest. Firm belly, elbows to ribs. Flip the toes for up dog, broad chest. Flip the toes for down dog, chin to chest. All right, inhale, right toes up in the sky. Keep those toes pointed down. Exhale, kick the foot all the way through. All right, so your hamstring stretch, maybe dropping the knee, maybe keeping the knee lifted, or I'm going to grab my blocks for pyramid pose, spinning the back heel down, straightening the arms and the legs. Inhale, lengthening the crown of the head forward. Exhale, taking a bow, making sure that left hip is drawing down towards the floor. So the intensity comes from that hip drop, as well as the bend of the elbows, or maybe taking the blocks to a lower level. One big hamstring stretch here for a breath. All right, and then I'm going to bend into that front knee and spin the back heel up. Okay, so blocks back at the top of your mat where you found them. Inhale, rise up, find your crescent pose with a firm belly, thumbs to the back of the neck. Now, can you push the elbows up into the ceiling, shrug the shoulder blades up into the ears, take 3 of those, practicing pushing the ceiling away. One more. All right, now look at your blocks. Bend, push, lift, standing splits. I'm going to grab that block with my right hand and put it right into the hip crease, folding over. Now my other block becomes my stability or hands to the floor. All right, so I want you to think about that hips to ribs action, that kind of lengthening of the tailbone, and that squeeze of the blocks. A little bit of a tactile feedback here. So as I press my hands into the floor, shoulders shrug into the ears, see if I can scoop that belly, squeeze that block so hard that my heel just got a little bit lighter. Weight towards the hands, scoop and squeeze, trying to press my thigh bone into the side of my ribs, trying to squeeze my hip points up into my rib cage and lengthen my tailbone. One more, that low side of my core really firing up here. And then I'm going to come on back and get rid of that block, drop the back foot. All right, either down dog or I'm going to add on to my wild thing. My right hand's going to go to the back of the head. As I step back into side plank, take my baby step behind me, I'm going to allow the weight of my head to come back into my hand, getting a bigger opening through the right pec. All right, I'll see you in down dog. Lengthen it out. Hamstring should feel a little different. Side body should feel a little different. Last side, last set. Inhale, left toes up with the toes pointed downwards. Exhale, kick it on through. Your hamstring stretch, which might involve pyramid and the blocks, or maybe you're going to drop that back knee if that hamstring is a little bit sensitive, or maybe you're rehabbing something. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to fold over that thigh bone, keeping that right hip rolling down towards the floor rather than that tendency of it to flare open. We got one more inhale, one more exhale for a really nice big hamstring stretch. Whew. And then go ahead and bend the knee and get rid of the blocks. Spinning your back heel up, power through that back heel. Use that low belt of support as you rise up. Place the thumbs to the back of the neck. Big inhale here. Exhale, shrug the shoulder blades up into the ears 3 times, pressing the elbows up into the ceiling, recognizing that you'll need that later, and then look at your blocks, bend, push, lift, standing splits. All right, so now I'm going to take that block in my left hand, shove it into my left hip crease, and I can either use my other block for support or hands on the floor. Relax the chin to the chest. Can you shove the shoulder blades up into the ears? Now can you squeeze the hips to the ribs? And if you really squeeze hard enough, that heel's going to get light. Not because I'm doing a calf lift, but because I'm squeezing my core and it naturally kind of brings lightness to that heel with that bend of the knee. Last one. Ooh, big squeeze, and then get rid of that block. Stepping on back, either down dog or adding on to the wild thing. Left hand to the head as I slide back, step behind, drop the weight of the head into the hand, spiraling the ribs up towards the ceiling. Okay, bring it on down, lengthen it out, take a big inhale. Okay, exhale, one more of those dolphin poses, elbows shoulder distance apart with an interlace in the hands if you'd like. All right, let's put everything together. We're going to shrug the shoulder blades up into the ears, check. We're going to lift up that right foot, check. Now, can you pretend like you've got a block squeezed on that left side? Ready? Squeeze the hips to the ribs. Heel's going to naturally lift. Do 2 more times. Shoulder blades. Squeeze the hips to the ribs, keeping those back toes pointed down. Last one. Shoulders, toes, and core. All right, drop the toes, drop the knees. Take a second if you need to shake it out. Same thing second side. So 3 things that we're looking for: that shoulder blade shrug, that back toes pointed down, and that engagement of the low belly. All right, here we go, second side. Then we'll take it to the wall. From your dolphin positioning, shrug the shoulder blades up into the ears. Check. Lift that left foot with the toes pointed down. Check. Now, can you squeeze that right thigh bone towards the right side of your rib cage, imagining that hips to ribs, that long tailbone action, that squeeze of the block. All right, bring it on down, hands and knees. All right, so option 1, if you need to relax and throw your legs at the wall and breathe and chill, feel free to do that. We'll come into Shavasana in just a moment. Or what I'm going to do is flip my mat around so that I have access to this wall, which you may or may not use depending on what you choose here in these next rounds. But I'm going to grab my blocks, have them handy, and we're basically going to go through 3 rounds here and stick with the round that you feel comfortable with. You always want to be at that level where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. You don't want to do anything that you regret in the morning. So definitely watch the demo and then decide if you're going to join me for that round. Maybe repeat something else, or maybe just throw your legs up the wall, breathe and relax. I'm going to take my blocks and I'm going to find this number 7. I'm going to butt this up against the wall so that there is space between my block and the baseboard. That's where my hands are going to go. But this long line is level and flush. We're going to place that on our spine. It's just going to help us make sure that we don't dump into the low back when we do this. All right, so round 1 is going to look like this. I'm going to find my dolphin with that interlace between the block and the baseboard. My elbows only shoulder distance apart. I'm going to curl my toes, lift my hips, and as I walk forward, I'm going to press my spine into the blocks. So it feels like a really nice massage. So I can stay here, I can kind of wiggle around and get that massage, or if you're with me, I'm going to push the elbows into the earth. I'm going to shrug my shoulder blades up into the ears, and I'm going to do 3 of those, what we call shoulder blade push-ups. Shrug, push, shrug, push, shrug, and push. Okay, bring it back down. So go ahead, and if you want to hit pause, try that yourself. Take a couple. You can always take more or less. That's completely up to you. But that's going to be round 1, getting the orientation of the foundation, and then that really important shoulder shrug, which is going to activate some of our back muscles to help us with the next round. Round 2, same thing, but we're going to stick the shoulder blades up in the ears. We're going to keep them there, and we're going to add on that leg. So I'm going to find my spine against the blocks. My head is nice and relaxed here. So elbows pushing into the mat, shoulder blades into the ears, check. Then I'm going to lift my right foot up, and I'm going to watch my toes the whole time. Okay, I'm going to watch my toes the whole time. I'm going to lift them a few times. So my shoulder blades are still shrugged. My back is on fire. It's all lit up. I'm going to watch those toes because the body really wants to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to switch it out. I'm going to shrug the shoulder blades, check. Keep that there, and then watch my toes lift. Watch my toes lift. It's so important because if they spin out this way, if you watch my hips, they just got really crooked. So in my next round, that's going to be crucial. Okay, drop the knees, relax. Okay, so again, do that round or hit pause. You can always repeat round 1. If you like round 2, you can always repeat round 2. I'm going to move on to round 3, where I'm going to be adding in that ab squeeze, okay, that hips to ribs. So it's all 3 things that we practice throughout the hour. We're just putting all the puzzle pieces together now. All right, so it's going to be an interlace. We're going to find the exact same positioning that we have throughout our rounds. Spine is supported. I have my dolphin. All right, so I'm going to go through my checklist. Shoulder blades to ears, check. Foot up with toes pointed down, check. Now I'm going to squeeze that pretend block, that hips to ribs. I'm going to squeeze, I'm going to squeeze, I'm going to squeeze. And if you saw, that heel got a little bit lighter. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Okay? Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. I'm going to switch it out. Shoulder blade shrug, check. Foot up with the toes pointed down, check. And then squeeze, 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 and squeeze some more. All right? And then bring it back down. Okay, so those were our 3 rounds. Again, feel free to repeat whatever round you'd like, or if you want to go ahead and take that whole thing upside down, we can add on just a little tick at the very end. So last little bit, if you'd like, taking it into full Pincha Myurasana. So once you find your interlace, or once you find the positioning that you've been finding through all the rounds, I'm going to shrug the shoulder blades, check. I'm going to put that foot up in the air, toes pointed down, check, and then I'm going to squeeze the ribs. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, we're going to keep squeezing, and it lifts because of that squeeze. There wasn't much of a jump. But for a lot of us, we're going to need some jumping. Okay, we're going to need a little momentum. So this leg here, this straight leg, he does nothing. He is like a dorsal fin. He's there for direction. We don't want to mess with him. If we mess with him like this, if I jump, I'm going to go sideways, all right? So keep the toes pointed down. This guy on the ground, he's my engine. He's what's going to push me up towards the wall. So once I've got my shoulder blades in my ears, once I've got my foot pointed downwards, once I've got that squeeze of the hips to ribs, then I'm going to try to kick myself in the butt. My heel's going to come up, hit my butt, okay? Maybe you stack, maybe you don't. It might kind of start out like that. And then eventually when you have that strength, keeping the shoulder blades in the ears, keeping the hips to the ribs, keeping that foot in that direction, you can stack and maybe eventually come up. Okay? So feel free to repeat any of that foundational work because you definitely have to have the strength of the shoulders and the foundation and the foot and the core before it can all come together. So obviously make sure and do the other side, okay? I just only did the one side. But if you're kicking heel to butt, it's so important for those toes to point down so we're not flaring the hips to the side and possibly kind of jumping sideways off to the side of our mat, okay? All right, so take a couple. Always stop if your body gets fatigued because you don't want to jump into something that your body's not ready for. And if you find one that's really good, like it's this kind of confidence boost, you find an awesome one, then definitely stop at that too because you want to end on a good one. So take a moment, hit the pause button, find what you need on both sides, and then meet me back here with all of your props put aside so that we are ready for Shavasana. I'm going to go ahead and sort out my mat. All right. Okay, so when you're ready, I'm going to meet you seated on the mat, hands on the shins. I'm going to relax the chin to the chest and kind of just roll back into this hammock, rounding the spine and taking it in the opposite direction than we have been going all practice. Should feel pretty lovely. Take a big breath here, chin to chest, hanging out in the space between your shoulder blades. And then bring yourself up. Now, if you really enjoy that, feel free to repeat that round, or I'm going to take my hands underneath my feet. I'm going to do it again, but as I push my gas pedals into my hands, I get a bit of an increase of that stretch and that sensation around the back. So feel free if you'd like to do this, or repeat that hammock. Big breath here. And then slowly release. All right, I'm going to grab those shins one more time, roll back into my hammock, and then just let my feet get a little bit lighter. I'm going to bring my knees into my chest. I'm going to bring my nose into my knees. And then I'm going to prepare myself for Shavasana. Taking those nice long legs. If you need anything prop-wise, feel free to take it. You can always place something over the eyes. It's helpful. All right, with the eyes closed down, take a moment to get out any fidgets and wiggles. And then as soon as you're able, drop your awareness into your breath. Your breath is going to send signals to your nervous system. We want to make sure that the right ones. If your breath is short and shallow, it's going to send signals that to stay active and stay on high alert. But if you slow it down, if you take those nice giant mindful cycles of breath, using up the max of your capacity, it's going to send signals to your nervous system that you're safe and that you're grounded, that you're ready to relax, and the nervous system is okay just kind of dialing back a bit. Take as many cycles of breath as you need in order to accomplish that task. Maybe feeling the heartbeat slow down. And then we want to make sure that the brain knows that we are ready to relax. So go ahead and scan the body head to toe, and let's take in some sensations here. We basically want to take inventory head to toe. If the brain knows that we're safe, every square inch of us, it's much more likely to let us relax. So take a moment and feel the pressure that the back of the skull creates on the floor. Notice how much of the shoulder blades are relaxing into the mat. Breathe down the arms, relaxing through the fingers, maybe noticing a temperature change between the mat, what's on the mat and what's off the mat. Breathing down the spine, you might notice your low back curve. Breathing down the front of the body, relaxing the core, maybe feeling the clothes on the body or any jewelry on the wrists. As you breathe down the lower extremities, make sure that your legs are relaxed and you're not holding them in place. You might feel if the back of the knees are lifted up off the floor. You might feel the pressure of the heels against the earth. Now that you have those nice long cycles of breath, now that your brain has accounted for every square inch of you, you can begin to find your focused stillness. That means thinking of one thing rather than nothing. Maybe picking something like the music that you're listening to. Maybe you're able to count your breaths and find focus in the numbers. Maybe you repeat something positive, finding a focus in that repetitiveness, saying, I am well, or I am enough. Maybe your brain needs to visualize something in great detail, like laying on the beach. Whatever you choose, take just a few more cycles of breath doing so. Allowing that evenness of the breath, stillness of the body, and the focus of the mind to help you reset. Keeping your eyes closed, go ahead and allow that focus to fade as you begin to wiggle fingers and toes, kind of bringing the awareness back to the body, back to the room. And then when you have enough energy built up, take a full body stretch, reaching through the fingers and the toes, lengthening out through the spine. I encourage you to notice if there's anything that feels different, maybe comparing this with the beginning of class. And then gently draw the knees into the chest, give yourself a big squeeze. Take your time, get what you need before we all land on the right side body. Taking a moment here to take one last cycle of breath. Inhale, a little gratitude for what your body was able to accomplish. And exhale anything you wish to leave behind today that might get in the way of that positive purpose moving forward. As you gently roll up to a seated position, we're going to sit up nice and tall in the spine. Hands to heart center and chin towards the chest. We bow our head as a gesture of gratitude for this amazing body that we've been blessed with, the ability to move and breathe as it does. We're thankful for what we have, we're thankful for who we have, and we're thankful for another beautiful day to enjoy all those blessings. It was my honor to lead you through class. Namaste.